I have a superpower called vulnerability. I paid full price for it, not in college, not in an institution, but through the years of my life, overcoming sexual trauma, environmental trauma, and emotional trauma. I want to resolve for you the inability for you to be open and vulnerable with those that you love and how you interact with the world. I want to take away this disposition you have to be guarded, closed off, and cynical. Vulnerability will make you an authentic person. Authenticity will become a part of your life. Would you be against me helping you gain my superpower? Take my course on vulnerability. In this first section, I will explain a few positive results of practicing a lifestyle of vulnerability. The first positive result is authenticity. Embracing vulnerability enables individuals to be more authentic and genuine. It encourages them to express their true selves without fear of judgment or rejection, fostering self-acceptance and allowing others to connect with them more profoundly. Let me tell you a story about authenticity. For me, authenticity is about being the same person everywhere you go. I call it integration, which means the opposite is disintegration. And what I like to encourage is for people to be their authentic selves and to show up everywhere as themselves. This is how you stay an integrated person and not wind up a disintegrated or disintegrating person where you feel like I can only show up like this here, but I show up like that there, and I show up a completely different way in this third place. Authenticity is about the integration of a person and their ability to be brave enough to be themselves everywhere they go. You want to be accepted for who you truly are. Now, I know we live in a society that pushes back on that, and I know that in professional environments or places out in certain public squares, you gotta get along with all of society. But as much as lieth within you, be you. You would rather be accepted on who you are and rejected on who you are than a mere carbon copy of who you are, or just a piece of who you are. I've had to learn this for myself. I remember what it was to be late teens, early 20s, trying to figure out who am I amongst the people that I was around, compared to the people that I was around. And going through that process, what I realized is I can't be them. And this is where the breakthrough happened for me. They can't be me. See, if you just spend your life comparing yourself to others, you will never find your authentic self. But when you rest in the fact that you can only be you and no one else can be you, it is liberating when you rest in that. And once I dialed into that, which I was so grateful I was able to do in my late 20s, early 30s, life got easy for me. And it got easy for the people around me because they could accept me or reject me based on who I actually was and not someone I was trying to be. So I want to encourage you, allow authenticity, the authentic you, to shine. Not everybody's going to accept it, but not everybody's going to reject it either. Be you. All right, y'all. So I got Bible for it. I got Bible for this. I got Bible for everything that I talk about because the Bible is my cheat code. Matthew chapter number 5, verse 37 is such a simple verse. You're going to be like, no, duh, Tim, this is way too simple. I want more. I'm not giving you more. This is simple. It needs to be simple. The moment it gets deep, it gets creep. So Matthew chapter number 5, verse 37, Jesus says, just say a simple, yes, I will, or no, I won't. If he'd have just stopped there, that would have been enough. But I love what he says afterwards. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. Yo, so check this out. What I love about this verse is that Jesus is giving us the literal cheat code to what it's like to start being an authentic person. Keep your word. It's either yes or no. I will or I won't. I do or I don't. Keep it that simple. If someone asks you how your day is going, tell them the truth. It is either going good or it's not going as good. You may not want to elaborate with that person. You may not want to tell them all the intricacies of what you're going through, but you can just tell the truth. This is the starter kit. A simple yes or a no, a will or I won't, a do or don't, a yay, a nay. Like, keep it that simple. This is the starter kit. This should be your anchor. This is your first hook into learning how to be an authentic person. Be a person of your word and let it be as simple as your yes being yes and your no being no. All right, so here's another thing that I want to talk about. It's the fact that authenticity fosters self-awareness. So here's the question: what can a person do to become more self-aware? Here is my answer. I believe people can become self-aware if they would do Q&As with themselves. That's right, you heard me. Question and answer with yourself. Now, if you talk to yourself, I just want you to know you're normal. What you've probably been told that if you answer yourself, you're crazy. I want you to be crazy because I want you to question yourself and I want you to answer yourself. This is how you become self-aware. What am I doing right now? If you can actually answer that question, you are aware of yourself. How do I sound right now? If you can answer that question, you are aware of self. How do I feel right now? If you can answer that question, you are aware of self. What we call it in the therapy world is attunement. Can you be attuned to your own body? Can you be attuned to your own self? I call it an emotional audit. I actually got this from something I heard with the great LeBron James. LeBron James has a personal trainer, and they do a physical audit of his body after every game that he plays. This is wild. When I heard this, I was like, are you kidding me? No wonder why this dude is almost 40 years old and can still play at the elite level he plays at. Get this. After every game LeBron James plays, his personal trainer comes in, he sits on a little bench, and they start with his pinky toe. The trainer grabs his pinky toe and says, how does it feel? And he goes, good. And he goes to the next toe and goes, how does it feel? Good. Next toe, how does it feel? Good. All the way to his big toe. Then he goes to his Achilles. Then he goes to his calf, asking him the same question: shin, leg, knee, thigh, hamstring, growing, all the way up to the top of his body. They take an emotional audit, a physical audit of every part of his body. And if he's good, it's good. And if there's any hint of a tweak or a pain, they write it down and they start game planning. How do we get the body to heal itself? We need to do the same thing for our emotions. To become self-aware, we need to do an emotional audit. Take inventory of how you feel relationally, how you feel spiritually, how you feel physically, how you feel financially, how you feel emotionally. Take audit of all of these things. Maybe jot some of them down and start investigating them a little bit more. Why am I feeling this way? You can become a self-aware person. And I'm telling you, self-awareness leads to a broader awareness of those around you. Self-consciousness keeps you consumed with only you at the expense of those around you. So let's dare to be self-aware. That was nasty. That was a bar. Authenticity also creates self-care. So, how do you practice self-care? Well, let me tell you how I practice self-care. And the way everybody practices self-care is different. Let me give you contrast between Juliet and I, for example. My wife is of Caribbean descent. She loves to work with her hands, and so I bought her a she shed. And Juliet goes out to her she shed and she tunes pianos. She actually flips pianos. She takes old pianos and restores them to new. She started with the outside. Now she does the inside of them. She's also doing woodwork now. She has like 3 or 4 different woodworking machines. She's built charcuterie boards. This brings her so much relaxation. Even though she's in sweltering heat and her body's sweating, this is where she escapes. This is where she gets time to calibrate. And that's self-care for her. I'm so much different than Juliet. I don't want to be in the heat. I don't want to work with my hands. I have very soft hands. I don't have any calluses. Everything I do, my work is from the neck up. I'm not trying to work with the rest of my body like that. So self-care for me literally yesterday, was a forehand massage at Woodhouse Spa. I love getting a massage. I love deep tissue massage. And I bought a whole package. I think I paid for 5, you get 7 and in this package. And I go at least once a month, if not twice a month, to get a massage. It's my escape. I just feel so centered and calibrated after I get a massage. The other thing that I love to do is read. And outside of that, I love playing video games, especially with teenage sons now. I get to kick their butt in video games that they think they're better than their dad in. They're not. So self-care looks different for different people. Whatever that is for you, dial into it. You need time to care for yourself. Think about this. You are not being selfish when you take care of self. You are being very thoughtful. You are being very caring for yourself as well as others. So do not forsake yourself when it comes to care. You need it, and I encourage you to get it. All right, so let's answer the question, what can a person do to deal with the emotional risk that comes with sharing your personal thoughts, feelings, and experience, and how do you navigate that personal rejection? Well, the first thing you need to do is talk about it. Don't pin it up, don't bottle it, don't keep it to yourself. You need to talk about it. Obviously, you don't need to talk about it with the person you feel like you got rejected by, because it might not be a person, it might be persons, and you may not know them or you may know them. But you need to acknowledge the pain. Sometimes it helps to write it out. Sometimes it helps to talk it out. I have dealt with rejection and will deal with rejection for the rest of my life. It's the nature of being a public figure. But when it gets to me, I talk about it. And I will vent and I will fuss and I will let it out. And then after I let it out, it's gone. It's over. It's done. If it's something that I feel like is a wound, I may need to see my therapist. I may need to talk to my close friends about it and be curious about why it's affecting me so much. It's not so much about what they said as much as it is me being curious about why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. I take that philosophy from Jesus. Jesus is on the cross, and while being crucified, is praying to God, his Father, on behalf of the people crucifying him. And what he's saying is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You can always pray for people when you know the context by which they come from. And Jesus, mid-crucifixion, can pray for his enemies because he knows why they're in the condition that they're in. Sometimes having perspective and having context becomes very, very helpful to dealing with people who reject you. When you know where they're coming from, you don't have to like it. Doesn't mean you like it. Doesn't mean that you're any less frustrated, but it does mean that I have context to it. And because I have context to it, I can navigate it better. So share those thoughts, talk out loud, process, and recover. All right, so let me talk about what a person can do to deal with the emotional risk that leads to criticism and or betrayal. I'm talking about that type of criticism and betrayal that negatively impacts your mental health and or your self-esteem. Take it from me, people. I know what it's like to be criticized, and I know what it's like to feel betrayed. Actually, not even a feeling. I know what it's like to be betrayed. I've had both of them hit me. And I'll tell you, harsh criticism can leave a deep impact. It can leave a wound. And you just have to be honest about when something hurts you. The worst thing you could do when criticism really affects you is try to act like it doesn't affect you. You're just lying to yourself. Don't play yourself like that. If something hurt you that you heard, that you read, that you saw, maybe it don't even have full context, it doesn't even matter. If it hurt you, say that it hurt. That's one of the best ways for you to recover, is to actually acknowledge that it hurt. Can you imagine a boxer in a ring getting punched in the chin, his knees give out, he can't get up into the 8 count, so he's still in the fight, right? He didn't get knocked out, but can you imagine that guy after the fight saying, that punch didn't hurt? Yeah, it did, fool. We saw you hit the deck. Of course it hurt. So acknowledge the criticism, acknowledge the betrayal. It does hurt, okay? And this is the best way to start recovering. The moment you acknowledge it, you can put it in its proper place, and you can get back to a place of stability in your own mental health and in your self-esteem. You got to remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. Your authenticity and your vulnerability cannot be contingent on other people's acceptance. Let me say that to you right now, real loud and real clear. If you expect other people's acceptance to fuel the reason why you are an authentic and vulnerable person, I promise you, you're going to struggle in ways that were not meant for you to struggle. You have to be anchored within yourself, knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do, this is who I'm supposed to be, and this is how I'm supposed to live. You have to understand that. That has to be anchored in your soul. That has to be tethered to something greater than you, and it's not in another person, that can only be in God. You want to help yourself, acknowledge the criticism, acknowledge when you've been betrayed. David did, Jesus did, you should too. And you will start to see within yourself a resiliency, as we've talked about before, an immunity being built up within you as it relates to that criticism. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. You won't feel that deep impact like you've felt before. Let's go back to the boxing analogy just for a moment. A guy that can take a good punch on the chin is somebody that didn't used to be able to take a good punch on the chin. You build up an immunity to certain blows because you've been hit there before. And so my encouragement to you is to build that thick skin and find the grace within. So let's answer the question of how can a person avoid the risk of vulnerability being exploited and led to emotional or physical abuse. So very simply and succinctly, vulnerability is for people that value you. You will always be able to tell the people that value you and the people that devalue you. And you will know that and be able to recognize that by the reaction you get to your vulnerability. It's very easy to see when you're vulnerable, how that person receives it and how they react to it. Let that be your guide. And please do not ignore the red flags. If you're vulnerable and somebody has a lot of questions and a lot of criticism about your vulnerability, and you allow that to happen and continue to happen, you're setting yourself up for emotional abuse, and or it can matriculate to physical abuse. Hey fam, thank y'all so much for joining me in this course on vulnerability. We have learned in this course that personal vulnerability can have both positive and negative aspects, impacting individuals in various ways. We explored how vulnerability brings positive outcomes such as connection and growth, and how it is essential to approach vulnerability with care and discernment. Next, we shared how vulnerability also considers the potential risk in each situation. And finally, we explained the impact of vulnerability and how it can be influenced by factors such as support systems, personal boundaries, and the receptiveness of the individuals. I love you guys so much, and until next time, bye!